Live now.
Welcome to the Node.js Foundation's Core Technical Committee meeting for April 5th, 2017. And just like every time, we're going to start with a stand-up. I don't think Anna's here, is she? Not seeing her. Bradley's not here, Ben's not here. So we go to Nikita.
Yes, nothing worth mentioning from me this week. And next one is Colin.
Yeah, nothing worth mentioning, just issues and pull requests. Next is Evan.
Yeah, I've been trying to get the crypto.randomfill and randomfill sync PR wrapped up. That's about it. Next is Francisca.
Nothing of note. Next is Jeremiah.
If there was anything, I don't remember what it was. I don't know who's next.
Better is next, but I don't think his microphone is working.
Test.
Oh, there we go. It's working.
Okay, I just opened Firefox to fix it. Anyway, so I have been working mostly on duckjeep. It's part of jeep.js to duct tape. So it's probably quite interesting project for Node.js because it will let us build Node itself without Python, at least in many systems, and without Node either. So it's kind of very good for bootstrapping Node on platforms that doesn't have Python at all. So that's pretty much it for me. Next is Josh.
Yeah, I just did a couple PRs related to debugger stuff and node inspect stuff. Yeah, next is Michael Dawson.
So just setting up our the Node.js Foundation user for NPM management, resolved a few build issues related to AIX, a couple of NAPI PRs to fix Coverity issues reported after PR landed, working with the rest of the NAPI team on documentation and starting to look at setting up some CI testing for the ported modules so that we can test that as well, and then just miscellaneous, reviewing and landing things. Next is Brian White.
Not too much for me other than the usual commenting on issues and reviewing PRs. Next is Miles.
So I put together a meta issue for the removal of legacy debugger protocol, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Did some research into turbofan and ignition. I released v6.10.2 and v4.8.2. There was a leak. We talked about it last week, but I can give people more information about it if they want. I've also released a new version of Canary in the Gold Mine. Next up is Ali.
Yeah, I did some work on the debug / inspector PRs, and that's about it. Next would be Rich.
Hi, I'm scheduling some onboarding for some people who nominated to be collaborators. Preparing for Code and Learn, which will be in Oakland on April 22nd. So if you are a collaborator or even just a contributor to Node Core and you would be interested in that, let me know or comment on the issue in the Code and Learn repo. And other than that, let's get started. I don't think we missed anybody. If I missed you in the stand-up, speak up. Last meeting, we talked about buffer a lot, and we had a series of votes in the GitHub issue tracker. The end result is that for version 8.0.0 of Node, we intend to have an opt-in flag for runtime deprecation of the buffer constructor, and we intend to zero fill, and we do not intend to backport that at this time, at least. And I believe that covers all the bases on that. If I'm forgetting something, maybe someone will remind me. Okay, cool. And then, so this week we have one item on the agenda, and it's all about removing the legacy debugger in version 8.0.0 of Node. And Miles, this is your issue, so do you want to take it away?
Sure. So at a very high level, what we've got going on here is right now we're on 5.7 on master and in 8.0. 5.8 is actually going to be promoted to stable right around the same time that we're planning to cut the branch. And in the past, we have actually run, beta versions of V8 in our tree before a release, as long as it's stable before, we cut our release. So the challenge here is that in V8 5.8, there is no longer going to be, any of the code or protocol related to the legacy debugger. So if we want to have a path to 5.8, either during the beta and RC process or in the life cycle of 8, we will have to remove all of the legacy debugger code. So this has been a bit of a meta issue, which is collecting all of the things that will need to land. Josh can come in and give, or Michael, a little bit of a heads up as to what was discussed in the diagnostics working group. They've already discussed this and voted on it, so they can talk about it. As far as I know, my impression was that they were all positive and for the debugger being removed. What this would do, the things that we're talking about doing is aliasing debug to inspect. We would have to move the V8 inspector to stable, because right now it's not stable. We'd have to remove hyphen debug. We want to update the hyphen inspect hint text. And there's one more issue here for underscore debug process to activate inspector SIG USR. I'm not super aware of what this one is doing, but I believe that Ali can chime in about that. So I'm going to hand it off to Josh right now to just give an update from the diagnostics working group, if you're up for that, Josh.
Sure, and Ali, you can chime in here. Essentially, we decided, and we should have put in an issue ourselves, I guess, on the main thing, that even if we go with 5.7, there's really no reason to keep the --debug, the old debugger interface or API, even accessible, which would address what Miles brought up. That way, we even if we start with 5.7, we can still go to 5.8 without being sent for major. And that was the conclusion in our last meeting. And Ali has updated the way we would hide away the interface in 5.7 is with the alias that Ali is working on. I think that's about the summary.
Just a question for you, because I believe that something is true, but I want to make sure that it's true. Have we begun shipping Node Inspect as a replacement CLI debugger inside of our tree?
Yeah, in the latest versions, since about 7.6 or 7.7, it's been there.
Mm-hmm. So I just wanted to make that clear, because I know that after the diagnostics working group, there was some misinformation on Twitter where people thought that we were talking about removing this without any solution or any options as far as the CLI debugger is concerned. So for anyone who's listening, and just for the record, if we move forward with this, we do have another CLI debugger in there. And the main thing here is, removing a lot of deprecated code and making sure that we're not shipping stuff that blocks us from upgrading other things. Rich has just asked in the comments really quickly, is the usage of the bundled Node Inspect documented anywhere? Is anyone able to speak to that?
I can check. I don't remember.
Okay, I will add this to the list of things that we need to do.
I think one of the PRs that gets rid of --debug, I think, does make the updates to the docs. So taken care of by that.
I guess in terms of like information on usage of the old one, do we have any data on that?
I've got some fantastic anecdotal data, if you like that. It's not scientific, but I do know that for a non-trivial period of time, from when promises landed on core to about a year and a half after promises landed on core, if you called inspect or util. I think it was like one of a handful of different util functions. The debugger would just explode, and it took almost a year before anyone actually sent us any issues about that. And when we actually found it out, it was like another issue that led us to realizing that there was that weird edge case. So the fact that the legacy debugger is not very well tested, the tests themselves don't really work, at least on 4 and 6, and the fact that it had been in production and broken for quite some time without any reports, leads me to believe that the usage is fairly low. Similarly, on an anecdotal level, I have talked to quite a few people who say that they do rely on it once in a while. But I've seen tons of stuff online and tons of documentation around using the new Inspect API, doing introspection and debugging using Chrome tools or Firefox or Chrome. I believe that Ali can speak more to this, but a number of the external vendors that were relying on the old debug API have all updated, so they're all using the Inspect API now. My gut is telling me that the number of people that this will directly affect will be fairly low.
So there's two things to talk about.
Yes.
Yeah, so there's two things, right? So there's the CLI debugger, and I think we have heard anecdotes that very few people used it, and it was not tested, and there were lots of issues, and we were supporting untested code paths. But the thing is, we have a better debugger now, so any users who are using a CLI debugger will still have a CLI debugger. It's going to be better supported. As for the --debug protocol, so the end users weren't really users of this. It was the CLI debugger and debugger vendors such as WebStorm and Node Inspector. So all of the vendors have pretty much migrated to the Inspector protocol now. I think Node Inspector is no longer being maintained. I don't think it has users anymore. People have moved over to Chrome DevTools or Visual Studio Code or WebStorm and other debuggers, which are all now using the new protocol. So it's not clear if there's any real users left for the old JSON-based debugger protocol.
Yeah, we certainly haven't heard anyone making a big deal about it. Nobody's said it needs to stay or give us another version.
Yeah, I'm of the opinion that the sooner we pull off the Band-Aid, the better.
Yeah, if the vendors have moved over, that's probably the most important thing.
So Michael, as a question to you, so Node Inspect was a strong loop repo the last time I checked. Is there, do you know if there's any plans internally at IBM to continue maintaining that through the strong loop?
Yeah, I think I saw an internal discussion that says, hey, when the new protocol comes to be, that's, it's going to be obsolete, and we're going to let it be that way, at least for now. So
I just noticed it says that on there.
Yeah, it was updated to say it's not maintained, I believe. So, if all the other vendors have changed, that one I don't think is a concern.
So with that being considered, we right now have 4, 9, 15 members of the CTC on this call, or 14 members and an observer. Is there anyone who would vote no on this, or alternatively abstain? So if we have neither of those, then I believe that we have quorum on moving forward with removing the debugger.
Yeah, I mean, just to get consensus, are there any objections to moving forward with this? Sounds like you can proceed.
Excellent. Thank you very much, everyone. I really appreciate the time. Rich, I'll hand it back to you.
I wasn't prepared for that, but that's okay. I'm going to get prepared really quickly. I mean, I guess it's Q&A time, so I'm going to slowly read off the upcoming meetings while we try to gather questions from the usual channels on IRC and Twitter and YouTube and wherever else.
Hey, real quick, You have time for one more thing?
What is it?
Async hooks PR. Want to do it about, but I'll still need more reviews for that to land. I don't doubt it's going to get in 8.0, but I think it could land in 8.1. There are really two aspects to it that need to be reviewed. One is to see if it core as it currently stands, so there are no regressions. And then the second aspect is for
Trevor, I don't know if you can
operating
hear
as
me.
it should be.
You're
Yeah.
breaking up quite a bit.
Yeah.
We missed most of that last sentence.
But
Sorry.
Can I try to summarize real quick?
It needs to be reviewed for it to land. I'd like it to land in 8.1. It needs to be reviewed in terms of not affecting core, so no regressions, and also to make sure that the API, as documented, does work correctly. So
Cool.
Anybody who feels like reviewing something, feel free. I don't even need full reviews. It's a big PR. Don't feel like you need to go over all of it.
Awesome. So your main obstacle right now is that not enough people are reviewing that PR. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay. So let's get some reviewers on that. Cool. Anything else about async hooks from Trevor or anybody else? Awesome.
I would like to make a comment about the debug API. Considering we are removing it without having an LTS in between, I don't exactly approve of this, but I'm not going to object to it either.
So Jeremiah,
I don't feel like perfectly comfortable about it. Let's just say that.
Jeremiah, I don't know if you recall, but we did backport the deprecation warning to 7 for this exact reason.
To 7 or to 6?
To 7.
There's people that are using 7, but it's not like most of our users. No?
So we could theoretically do a minor of 6, but I guess we don't have enough lead time to do a minor of 6 that would include a deprecation warning. And I guess that deprecation warning in 6 would kind of be a Semver major, so maybe it's a non-starter there.
We did post a blog post and stuff about this. I don't know if that helps. We're trying our best to get the word out, and so anybody has any problems, they can let us know. So far, nobody said anything.
Yeah, the alternative is the only alternative is don't upgrade V8 in 8.0.0, and I don't think any of us want that.
Like I don't know if we really have another a great other option. I'm not the biggest fan of doing that, removing things without LTSs in between, since that's kind of what we've landed on usually doing. So just want to.
I was under the impression that it was more just that we had a major with a warning before we did it in the next major. Is there other examples of where we did this with an LTS in between, or like stalled due to an LTS in between?
I think normally you'd have a deprecation cycle, wouldn't you? Like you deprecate it, there'd be at least a release. In this case, the 6th release, the LTS release, at least, it wasn't deprecated there, and it's just going to disappear in the next one.
So I think that applies to Node APIs. So if there's a V8 dependency or a libuv dependency that we depend upon, then we can't have, we don't offer the same deprecation cycle guarantees for those APIs.
Yeah, that's not a good thing necessarily. It's just the facts of life, right? It doesn't mean that, like in this case, we actually have a choice. Often we don't, in which case we don't have a choice, so we can't do it.
But we also have the choice to remove code that we know is buggy and that we know is unsupported, rather than supporting it for 3 years. To me, it seems like a less risky option to actually remove it than it would be to keep it.
I mean, the key thing is whether we, I think the earlier discussion is we don't believe anybody's going to be using it, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what it would come down to. If nobody's using it, then getting rid of the code is a win. If people are using it, then yeah, it's fair to say that, it's a little bit of an uncomfortable situation to say we're getting rid of it without the deprecation cycle. If 5.7, for example, didn't have it in it, we'd probably just, I guess, say, well, it's out of our control. V8 removed it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, we could go forward with also removing this stuff, doing calls to the community, and if we have any responses from individuals that are uncomfortable with what's happened, a reversion to put it back in can always be on the table before the RC.
I mean, there's precedent for reverting breaking changes even after the release. I mean, we did that with the runtime deprecation for buffer constructor without new.
It ought to be more of a semver minor to revert it too, right?
Yeah. The issue, the potential issue we run into is if we upgrade V8 to where we can't support the debugger anymore. But I mean, I just don't think really we have any choice here. I think we have to get rid of it, and I think I mean, like, it's not the greatest, it's not the greatest circumstances. It would be great to be doing this in a more controlled fashion with, well, I don't know about more controlled, but in a fashion that took more releases and gave people a lot more warning, blah 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 blah. But we've done everything we can, and I think this is the way we have to go. I don't really think there's another viable option.
I think we just need to keep our ears open for maybe what it was suggested is, maybe publicize as best we can, and then keep our ears open for if it is causing grief. And hopefully the answer is it won't, and we're just there.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, unless someone wants to add something more, it's time for upcoming meetings. And I don't know if somebody else wants to read these. I always mess them up. But we have a collaborator summit for Node.js collaborators in Berlin on May 4th and 5th. There is a TC39 meeting, which I'm not sure, Miles, like this who's invited to this? Is this for CTC only, or who's this May 22nd thing for?
This is for TC39, CTC, TSC, and board members, and members of the foundation. I've gotten to extend it to people who are involved, with Node, and would benefit from meeting and greeting with the TC39.
Okay,
so if you're on this, please
so
feel free to
go ahead.
Please go for it.
So if you're one of the few, we have hundreds of individual members of the foundation. So
So this isn't for individual members. It's for CTC, TSC. When I say members of the foundations, I mean staff of the foundation.
Gotcha.
Itself.
Okay. So this is for a few dozen people.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So then I'm just going to move on because to the CTC meeting. Next one is a week from today, but much earlier at 0500 UTC, depending on what time zone you're in. That will be much
I
later.
might have that wrong. Not sure if it's really 500 UTC. Is it?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
I think I put it in there. I could be, therefore it can't possibly be wrong. No, just kidding. Let's check. I think it is 500 UTC, but we might as well take the 10 seconds it will take to confirm. Yes, 5 o'clock UTC, 5 a.m. UTC. Yes, that's correct. And then the TSC meeting, the next one is tomorrow, this says. At the same time this meeting started, 2000 UTC, 8 p.m. UTC. And that's what we got. Do we have any questions lined up?
Yes. Someone asks, hello there, how can I contribute to Node.js source code? I'm a front-end developer and I consider myself a good JS developer and Node. Any tips around? Is it possible?
Ooh, can I take this one?
It's possible. Maybe someone else can elaborate more.
My recommendation would be to go to Node2do, NODETODO.org, and there are instructions there for getting help and getting started. Additionally, the foundation periodically holds events called Code and Learn, which are specifically about getting people involved in contributing to their first contributions into Node.js core. So be on the lookout for those events. There's one in Oakland, California later this month, and then we're looking to have later this year, if all goes according to plan, one in China, one in Ireland, and one in Vancouver, Canada. Any other questions? Someone else want to say? Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I don't think we have any.
All right, cool. Oh, wait. Go ahead, Jeremiah.
Is the one in Vancouver at the same time as Node.js Interactive?
Yes. And the one in Ireland will hopefully be at the same time as NodeConf EU. And the one in China will hopefully be at the same time as JSConf CN. But the only one that's definite right now is the Node Interactive one in Vancouver.
And just to clarify, at the same time means I think either the day before or the day after or something.
Right. Very good chance it won't be during the event. It might be the next day or the day before, but it'll be around that time.
The JSConf for Berlin, is there one happening around that time or not?
No, there is not.
Okay, good. Just wanted to be sure.
Okay.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks for listening, everybody. We're going to move on to a little private business. So that's it. Thanks. And next week.
Thanks.